Good day, class, and welcome once again to my YouTube channel. Today, we are going to be looking at biology and we'll be considering classification, classification of living things. Classification of living things, okay? So now, initially, I told you guys that biology is the study of living things. And so, we have diverse living things in the world. And of course, biology will tend to help us to classify these different living things based on their similarity. So I want you to pay attention to this now so that you get quite a number of things concerning the different classes of living things. Okay? Just like the way you visit a library and then you find books being arranged properly, probably in their order of colors, or in their order of authors, or in their order of subjects. Okay, that's how living organisms are also classified. So now, looking at the classification of living things, olden times there was a scientist that came up with this idea on how you could classify living organisms, and then his name is Aristotle. Aristotle was the first to attempt classification system, okay? But it wasn't credited to him. Why? Because his own was not really having a degree of accuracy. But another man came and then he was able to show us how we can classify living organisms properly. And his name is Carolus Linnaeus. Okay, Carolus Linnaeus was able to classify living organisms based on the taxonomical system. Okay, now I'm going to explain it under different headings concerning the classification of living things. First heading is that we are going to look at what taxonomy entails. Taxonomy. And secondly, we will consider binomial nomenclature. Binomial nomenclature. Okay? So pay attention to this now. What is taxonomy? Taxonomy simply is a branch of science that deals with the study of identification, classification, and also deals with the study of how we can actually place living organisms in their order of similarity. Now look at it. This taxonomy is gotten from two Greek words. It was derived from two Greek words, taxa and nomia. The word taxa means to classify. To classify. Then while the word nomia means method. So can simply put it this way, that taxonomy is a method of classifying living organisms. Okay? And quick fact. A scientist that deals with or concentrates in this taxonomy is said to be called a taxonomist. So don't forget that, okay? Then looking at the other one, binomial nomenclature. The word bi means two. And the word nomial is actually coming from that nomia, which is a method. And of course, this nomenclature has to do with the order with which you can classify or name living organisms, giving them two names. And usually, these two names, they come from their genus and their species. So it means the first name will be the genus name, while the second name will be the what? The species name. Okay? So coming back to this Carolus Linnaeus. Carolus Linnaeus was able to help us see the seven system of classifying living organisms. He was the one that brought about the seven system of classification of living organisms. And let's look at how he actually brought about these seven systems. And what are the seven systems? Now, the seven systems that was brought about by Carolus Linnaeus are, we have the kingdom. We have the phylum, then we have the class, then we have the order, we have the family, then we have the genus, and we have the species. Okay? Now, the one that is considered to be the highest and the most prominent of them all is actually the kingdom. Now, kingdom, according to Carlos Linus, he told us that there are two kingdoms. And what are these two kingdoms? We have the kingdom Animalia, and then we have the kingdom Plantae. But later on, scientists were now discovering diverse organisms, and then they could not fit in the Animalia or the Plantae, and then they were now giving other kingdoms. So that's the reason why the modern classification system has 5 kingdoms. And what are these 5 kingdoms? Of course, we have the kingdom Animalia, we have the kingdom Plantae, then we have the kingdom Monera, then we have the kingdom Protista, and then we have the kingdom Fungi. So these are the 5 kingdoms that exist in the world of classification of living organisms. Okay? Now, looking at this 7 hierarchical system of classifying living organisms, we are going to take, for example, a case study. Let's see dog. Now, dog is from the kingdom, that's the domestic dog, is from the kingdom Animalia, and the phylum is called Chordata. Now, Chordata is simply chordates, and those organisms that are referred to as chordates are simply organisms that have the presence of notochord. The presence of notochord. Now, notochord, you shouldn't be confused about that. Notochord is simply a flexible rod-like material, skeletal material that tends to provide support in the embryonic stage of vertebrates. But though a higher vertebrate or a grown-up vertebrate do not really have the appearance of notochord, but rather the notochord now gets transformed into the vertebral column of higher vertebrates. Okay? Alright, and then the class of dog is Mammalia, and it is obvious that dog is a mammal, and mammals are simply organisms that tend to give birth to their young ones alive. Okay, and then while the other is Carnivora, meaning that they have well-developed canine teeth. Okay, and then we have the family to be called Carnidae. Then while the genus is known as Canis, then while the species is known as Familiaris. Okay, Canis familiaris. So please take cognizance of this. Again, we still have for man. For man, man is under the kingdom Animalia, and under the phylum Chordata, then under the class Mammalia, then under the order Primata. Talking about the primates, you know, there are some group of mammals that are having the possession of grasping hands and feet. And then the family is known as Hominidae. That in terms of man now, Hominidae. Then while the genus of man is Homo, then while the species is Sapiens. Okay? So please, take note of all these because they are very, very important. Alright? Then again, if you consider looking at these different hierarchical classification system, you get to know that the highest, in case you see it in the exam, is kingdom, while the least or the lowest is species. So don't forget that, okay? Then, we saw that we have 5 kingdoms. Remember the kingdoms again? We have the kingdom Monera, we have the kingdom Protista, we have the kingdom Fungi, we have the kingdom Plantae, and then we have the kingdom Animalia. So don't forget that, okay? Then, since we have already looked at all that, then we are going to touch in our next video. We'll be looking at the different kingdoms. We will specialize on the different kingdoms, talking about the Monera, the Protista, the Fungi, the Animalia, and the Plantae. But mind you, whenever you are asked to represent the binomial nomenclature of any organism, for example, in the case of man, I told you that it is known as Homo sapiens. you must endeavor to underline due to the fact that you are carrying it out using your free hand, that's handwritten. When you are writing the binomial nomenclature of any organism using your free hand, please endeavor to underline and make sure that the genus name starts with a capital letter, meaning you must capitalize the first letter of any binomial nomenclature of any organism. Looking at this now, this one, Homo sapiens for man, the H is capitalized, being the genus name, then while the S is written in small letter, being the species name. Okay? Then we also have others, like in the case of the Canis familiaris, that is the dog, you capitalize the C, being the genus name, and then the F will be written in small letter. You have others like maize. Maize is called Z maize. So since it is handwritten, I would have to capitalize the first letter, that's of the genus name, and then just make everything small and then underline. But when you are using computer to type, let's say you want to type the binomial nomenclature of an organism using computer, what are you supposed to do? Just italicize it. When you italicize everything, but you must also ensure that the first letter of the genus name must be capitalized. And then when you italicize everything, no need of you underlining. Hope you got it. Meaning, when it is written in italics using the computer, because your hand cannot italicize, it's very difficult. So when you use the computer to italicize, you don't need to underline, but you must follow the normal method, which is the genus name must be capitalized while the others are written in small letters. Okay, so that's that for that. Then you still have other organisms that you can actually represent, just like in the case of a lion. Lion is Panthera leo. So you see that I actually capitalized this one, and then all are written in small letters. So that's that for that. So in our next video, we are going on our next class, we are going to be considering the different kingdoms. Then we'll major on that. I will give you the organisms that are found in different kingdoms, and then I will just give you the salient points to consider about the different kingdoms, and then we'll proceed to other topics. Okay? So if you like this video, please just like, and then you also leave your comments. Now the thing is this. As you watch a very interesting and rich, educationally rich video like this, what you're supposed to do is you can leave your comments. You can leave your comments in the comment section, and then let me know what you are not clear with, or probably your observation and all that. Share your understanding, so please. Alright, then again, turn on your notification bell all the time. In fact, for those that have not turned it on, turn on and then subscribe to this channel, because I'll be dropping quite a number of rich videos every time. Okay, so I love you guys. Thank you for staying tuned into this channel. I wish you guys all the best. Okay, so just remain blessed and wait for the next video.